Admiral Jake Morrison pressed his face against the cold window of the space station. Below him, ships filled with scared people kept arriving every few minutes. These were the lucky ones. They had escaped from Earth's far colonies just in time. 3 days ago, everything changed. The aliens came with their big message. 12 different alien races working together called themselves the Zephyrian Empire. They told humans a simple thing: give up all your space colonies or we will kill you all. Jake remembered President Lisa Hamilton's speech on the news. She stood behind her wooden desk in the White House. Her voice was calm, but her eyes were angry. "We respectfully decline," she had said. Just 4 words that changed everything. The aliens did not like that answer. They came to Earth with their huge ships. People in Australia looked up at the sky and saw lights brighter than the sun. Then the lights came down. The whole continent turned into melted glass in just 2 hours. 40 million people died. Their homes, their cities, their dreams all became nothing but hot, glowing rock. Jake's hands made fists as he thought about it. The aliens thought humans would give up after that. They thought wrong. Instead of surrender, humanity did something the aliens never expected. Every human colony, every space station, every ship started working together, not to run away, not to hide, but to fight back harder than anyone had ever fought before. Captain Ryan Blake walked up behind Jake. Ryan was young for a ship captain, only 32 years old. But he was smart and brave. His ship, the Shadow's Edge, was special. It could become invisible to alien sensors, perfect for sneaking around enemy space. "Admiral," Ryan said quietly. "Fleet Command sent new orders." Jake turned around. Ryan's face looked serious. Very serious. "What do they want?" "They want me to go into alien space. Find out where their ships are, how many they have, what weapons they use." Ryan paused. "It's a one-way trip, sir. My ship won't have enough fuel to come back." Jake nodded slowly. War meant people had to do dangerous things. Sometimes they had to die for others to live. "When do you leave?" "In 2 hours. But sir, there's something else you should know. My spy equipment picked up alien radio signals. They only used a tiny part of their fleet to destroy Australia. Maybe 1% of their total ships." Jake's eyes went wide. "What?" "They thought we would surrender immediately, like every other species they ever fought. They didn't think they needed their whole fleet to scare us," Jake laughed. But it was not a happy laugh. It was the kind of laugh soldiers make when they realize their enemy made a big mistake. They don't know humans very well, do they? Ryan smiled for the first time in days. "No, sir, they don't. Far below on Earth, in a secret laboratory built deep under the ground where Australia used to be, Dr. Amy Chen worked without sleeping. The room around her was full of computers and strange machines that hummed and sparked. She had been the world's best nuclear physicist before the war. Now she was humanity's secret weapon maker. Amy looked at her latest creation through thick, protective glass. It was just a small metal box, no bigger than a lunch container. But inside that box, she had trapped pieces of space itself. She had learned how to twist reality and make it into a weapon. Her assistant, a young man named Peter, brought her coffee. "Dr. Chen, you need to rest. You haven't slept in 36 hours. Amy took the coffee, but kept working. "No time to rest. Peter, the aliens think they know about human technology. They think our weapons are simple and weak. They're about to learn how wrong they are." She pressed a button. The metal box started glowing. On her computer screen, numbers showed that the box was creating a tiny black hole. Not big enough to hurt anything nearby, but big enough to prove her idea worked. "Peter, send a message to Fleet Command. Tell them Project Quantum Fire is ready for testing." Peter's hands shook as he typed the message. He knew what this meant. Humans had just learned how to make artificial black holes. They could put one anywhere they wanted, even inside enemy ships. Back on the space station, Jake received more bad news. A young communication officer named Lisa ran up to him. Her face was pale with fear. "Admiral, we just got a message from the aliens. It's being broadcast to every human colony and ship. Jake's stomach felt sick. Put it on the main screen. The screen lit up with the image of an alien creature. It looked like a giant insect with too many eyes and sharp teeth. When it spoke, a computer translated its words into English. Attention primitive species 347b. You call yourselves humans. 3 of your planet's days have passed since we demonstrated our power, yet you have not surrendered. This is unusual. Most species submit to the Zephyrian Empire within hours of our first strike. The alien's many eyes seemed to look directly at Jake through the screen. We understand that your species may be too primitive to understand what surrender means. Therefore, we will make our message more clear. In exactly 72 of your hours, we will return to your home planet. This time, we will not stop with one continent. We will burn your entire world until nothing lives. Not one human will survive. The message ended. The screen went black. Jake stood very still for a long moment. Then he smiled. It was not a nice smile. It was the smile of a man who had just realized his enemy made a terrible mistake. He turned to Lisa. Send a message to all human fleets. Tell them to begin Operation Hornet's Nest and send one more message to President Hamilton. What should it say, sir? Jake's smile got bigger. Tell her the aliens just gave us exactly what we needed. They gave us time to show them what happens when you make humanity angry. The space station suddenly became very busy. Alarms started ringing. Ships began moving. And somewhere deep in space, Captain Ryan Blake's invisible ship slipped quietly into alien territory to begin the most important spy mission in human history. The war was about to begin for real. Fleet Admiral Kate Williams stood in the secret command center buried deep under the mountains of Colorado. She had waited 20 years for this moment. 20 years of building hidden shipyards. 20 years of training pilots in secret. 20 years of preparing for a war that everyone hoped would never come. Now the war was here. Kate pressed a red button on her desk. Across the solar system, signals went out to every hidden base humanity had built. On the dark side of the moon, massive, doors opened in what looked like empty craters. Behind Jupiter's biggest moon, construction yards that had worked in secret for decades suddenly came alive with light and movement. Operation Hornet's Nest is now active, Kate said into her microphone. All units begin launch procedures. What came out of those hidden bases surprised even Kate. Not the big, slow battleships that most space fleets used. Instead, thousands of small, fast ships poured out like angry bees from a broken hive. Each ship was only as big as a city bus, but they carried weapons that could destroy something 100 times their size. Commander Steve Parker sat in the pilot seat of the first Hornet fighter to launch. His ship was so small that he could touch both walls by stretching out his arms. But packed into that tiny space was more firepower than some alien cruisers carried. Hornet 1 to all units, Steve said into his radio. Remember what they taught us in training. We don't fight fair. We don't give them a chance to shoot back. We hit fast and run away. Then we hit them again from somewhere else. Behind Steve, 999 other Hornet fighters followed him into space. Each pilot had trained for this moment their whole adult life. They were not heroes looking for glory. They were angry humans looking for payback. On Earth, General Paul Davis walked through the empty streets of New York City. Well, they looked empty. That was the point. Every person who lived there had been moved to safe places underground. But hidden cameras and sensors watched every corner. Hidden weapons waited in every building. Paul's job was to make the aliens think humans were running away in fear. While the real human fleet got ready to fight, Paul had to put on a show. He had to make Earth look weak and helpless. But Paul knew something the aliens did not. Humans were very good at lying to their enemies. Giant hologram machines hidden under the city made it look like crowds of people were running around in panic. Fake radio signals made it sound like the human government was falling apart. Computer programs sent out messages that made it seem like human ships were fleeing to other star systems. The aliens would see exactly what Paul wanted them to see. A species in total panic, completely defeated by one attack. Paul smiled as he watched his fake crowd of scared people run past. "Come on down," he said to the empty sky. "We have a surprise waiting for you." In space near Mars, Captain Ryan Blake's invisible ship moved slowly through the alien fleet. His ship was so well hidden that alien sensors could not find it even when it was right next to them. Ryan counted enemy ships and took pictures of their weapons. What he saw made his blood run cold. The alien fleet was huge. Hundreds of massive battleships floated in perfect formation. Each ship was big enough to carry a small city. Their weapons could turn a planet into dust. But Ryan also saw something that gave him hope. The aliens were organized like they were going to a parade, not a fight. All their ships were lined up neatly. They moved slowly and predictably. They had never fought an enemy that might actually fight back. Ryan sent his report back to Human Command. Enemy fleet contains approximately 400 capital ships, but they are arranged for intimidation, not combat. Recommend immediate surprise attack before they can reorganize. The message traveled instantly across space to reach Admiral Kate Williams. She read it and nodded. The aliens were about to learn that humans did not line up their ships in neat rows for their enemies to count. Dr. Amy Chen finished connecting the last wire to her new weapon. She called it a quantum torpedo, but it looked nothing like the missiles that human ships normally used. It was just a small metal sphere that fit in her hand. Amy's assistant Peter watched nervously as she activated the torpedo. "Dr. Chen, are you sure this is safe to test so close to Earth?" Amy smiled. She had not smiled since Australia burned. "Peter, this weapon creates a black hole only as big as a marble. It exists for less than 1 second. But in that 1 second, it will tear apart anything within a kilometer of where it appears." She pressed a button. 50,000 kilometers away, an old satellite that had been put there as a target simply stopped existing. It did not explode. It did not break apart. One moment it was there, and the next moment there was just empty space. Peter stared at the screen showing the empty spot where the satellite used to be. "How is that possible?" "I learned how to make space itself into a weapon," Amy said. "And tomorrow we test it on something bigger." On the Human Command Station, Admiral Jake Morrison received a message that made him laugh out loud. The alien fleet was coming toward Earth, but they were sending messages to each other that human computers could easily read. The aliens were talking about what they would do after they destroyed humanity. Some wanted to use Earth as a vacation planet. Others wanted to strip mine all the metals from human colonies. They were already arguing about how to divide up human territory. Jake called together all his ship captains. "Gentlemen and ladies, I have news. Our enemy is so confident they will win that they are already fighting over our dead bodies. They think this will be easy." Captain Sarah Martinez, commander of the carrier New Horizon, raised her hand. "Admiral, what are our orders?" Jake looked at each of his captains. These were good people, brave people. People who had watched Australia burn and decided that someone had to pay for it. "Our orders are simple," Jake said. "Show them what happens when you make humans angry. Show them that we are not like the other species they conquered. Show them that bombing our planet was the biggest mistake they ever made." The room filled with the sound of captains standing up and saluting. They were ready. In just 18 hours, the alien fleet would reach Earth. They expected to find a broken planet full of scared people begging for mercy. Instead, they were about to meet humanity at its most dangerous, angry, organized, and ready to fight with weapons the aliens had never seen before. The aliens thought they were coming to finish a war. They were actually walking into a trap that had been 20 years in the making. The alien fleet reached Earth just as their clock said they would. 400 massive ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel and formed their battle lines. Admiral Krezth, leader of the Zephyrian fleet, looked at his screens and saw exactly what he expected to see. Earth looked dead and empty. No ships defended it. No weapons fired at his fleet. The humans had clearly given up and run away to hide somewhere in deep space. "This is almost too easy," Krezth said to his second-in-command. "Begin planetary bombardment. Make sure nothing survives this time." But as the alien ships powered up their planet-killing weapons, something strange started happening. Ships began disappearing, not exploding, not getting destroyed in battle, just disappearing. First, a scout ship on the edge of the formation simply stopped answering radio calls. Then a cruiser went silent. Then 2 more ships vanished from the formation without any warning or distress signals. Commander Beth Thompson smiled as she watched from her hidden position behind Earth's moon. Her squadron of 12 human destroyers had been waiting there for 2 days, completely invisible to alien sensors. Each of her ships carried something the aliens had never seen before, mines that could move by themselves and find targets. Ghost, mines deployed and active, Beth reported to command. Enemy scouts are being eliminated as planned. The ghost mines were Amy Chen's second invention. Each one was as small as a basketball, but could fly through space on its own, find enemy ships, and attach itself to their hulls. When it exploded, it created a tiny black hole that sucked the entire ship into nothing. Admiral Kreseth stared at his screens in confusion. Where are they going? Ships do not just disappear. His sensor officer, a nervous creature with 4 eyes, spoke quietly. Sir, I am detecting some kind of unknown energy signatures near the missing ships just before they vanish, but I cannot identify what is causing them. That was when Commander Steve Parker and his 1,000 Hornet fighters struck. They came from every direction at once. From behind planets, from inside asteroid fields, from the dark space between Earth and Mars. The small human ships moved so fast that alien weapons could not track them. They fired their weapons and flew away before the aliens could shoot back. But these were not normal space battles with laser beams and missiles. The human weapons were something completely new. Each Hornet fighter carried quantum torpedoes, Amy Chen's black hole weapons made smaller and faster. When a torpedo hit an alien ship, it did not damage the hull or destroy the engines. It made the ship fold in on itself and disappear into a point of nothingness. In 10 minutes, Steve Parker's fighters destroyed 60 alien ships without losing a single human pilot. Admiral Kreseth watched his fleet being torn apart by an enemy he could barely see. Impossible, these humans use primitive technology. How are they doing this? The answer came from President Lisa Hamilton herself. She appeared on every alien communication screen in the fleet. Her message was broadcast on frequencies that cut through all their attempts to block it. Greetings, Zephyrian Empire, she said calmly. You seemed surprised that we are fighting back. Let me explain something to you. You made 2 big mistakes. First, you thought we would give up after you, killed 40 million of our people. Second, you thought you knew what human technology could do. President Hamilton smiled, but it was not a friendly smile. You were wrong about both things. We do not give up, and our technology is not primitive. We have learned how to weaponize the basic forces of the universe. Physics itself fights for us now. As if to prove her point, Dr. Amy Chen fired her biggest quantum weapon from the hidden laboratory under Australia. The target was a Zephyrian battleship 100,000 kilometers away from Earth. The massive alien ship, bigger than most human cities, simply stopped existing. 1 second it was there with 5,000 alien soldiers inside. The next second there was just empty space and confused radio signals from the rest of the fleet. But the real surprise came when Admiral Jake Morrison's main fleet decloaked around the alien formation. 2,000 human ships appeared from nowhere, surrounding the confused aliens. These were not the tiny Hornet fighters. These were full-sized warships that had been hiding in space, waiting for the perfect moment to attack. Attention, Zephyrian fleet, Jake's voice echoed across space. You are surrounded, your advanced ships are gone. Your biggest battleship just got deleted from reality. I suggest you listen carefully to what happens next. Admiral Kreseth had never been in a situation like this. In 500 years of conquest, no species had ever fought back effectively. They always ran away or begged for mercy. They never surrounded his fleet with superior technology. This is Admiral Jake Morrison of the Human Defense Fleet, the voice continued. You came here to finish destroying our planet. Instead, you are going to help us send a message to the rest of your empire. Jake's next words were broadcast not just to the alien fleet, but to every Zephyrian world and colony across the galaxy. People of the galaxy, you have lived under Zephyrian rule for centuries. You have been told that resistance is impossible, that their technology and numbers make them unbeatable. Today, humanity proves that is a lie. On the screens of 1 billion alien worlds, people watched as the mighty Zephyrian fleet, the same fleet that had conquered dozens of star systems, ran away from Earth as fast as their ships could fly. But Jake was not finished. To the Zephyrian High Command, wherever you are hiding, here is our message. You burned one of our continents, so now we are going to visit some of yours. Not to kill civilians like you did, but to destroy every military base, every weapons factory, and every ship you have. The broadcast ended with images of human ships using quantum weapons to destroy fleeing alien vessels. Ships that had seemed invincible just hours before were being erased from existence by weapons that turned space itself into humanity's ally. Captain Ryan Blake, still hidden in alien space, watched 12 Zephyrian worlds declare independence from the Empire in a single day. Species that had been slaves for centuries saw what happened at Earth and decided to fight for their own freedom. The war was far from over, but in one day, humanity had changed from victims to the galaxy's newest superpower. And the aliens were beginning to understand that attacking Earth had been the worst mistake in their empire's history. 3 weeks after the Battle of Earth, the Zephyrian Empire was falling apart. Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his flagship and watched reports come in from across the galaxy. 17 different alien species had declared war on the Zephyrians. Slave worlds were fighting for freedom. The empire that had ruled for 500 years was crumbling in less than a month, but the aliens were not giving up without a fight. "Admiral," his communication officer said, "we are getting a message from Kepler Station. The Zephyrians are attacking with everything they have left." Jake's face went hard. Kepler Station was humanity's furthest outpost, 300 light-years from Earth. 2,000 human families lived there. If the aliens destroyed it, they would prove that humans could still be hurt. "How long until our fleet can reach Kepler?" Jake asked. 18 hours at maximum speed, sir." Jake knew that was too long. The battle would be over by then. "Send a message to Kepler Station. Tell them they are on their own. Tell them to make us proud." At Kepler Station, Commander Lisa Brooks received Jake's message and gathered her small defense fleet. She had only 30 ships against 300 alien vessels. By all military logic, she should evacuate the station and retreat. Instead, Lisa smiled and opened a channel to her pilots. "Attention all ships. The aliens think they can scare us by attacking our families. They think we will run if they threaten the people we love. Today, we show them how wrong they are." The battle that followed became legend. Lisa used every dirty trick humans had learned in 3 weeks of war. She hid ships inside the station's solar panels. She programmed cargo containers to explode when alien ships got close. She even turned the station's communications array into a giant weapon that fired focused radio waves hot enough to melt alien hull armor. But the real surprise came when Captain Sarah Martinez arrived with unexpected help. Sarah's carrier, the New Horizon, dropped out of faster-than-light travel with a fleet of 200 ships. But half of those ships were not human vessels. They were alien fighters crewed by species that had joined humanity's war against the Zephyrian Empire. "This is Captain Martinez to all human and allied forces. We received your distress call. Sorry we are late to the party." The alien slaves, who had joined humanity, fought with desperate courage. They had been under Zephyrian rule their whole lives. This was their first chance to fight back against their oppressors. Lieutenant Colonel Mike Roberts piloted his modified fighter directly into the alien formation. His ship carried one of Dr. Amy Chen's largest quantum weapons. It was a suicide mission, but Mike volunteered because his brother had died when Australia burned. "Tell my wife I love her," Mike said over the radio as his ship accelerated toward the biggest alien battleship. The explosion that followed lit up space for 1,000 kilometers. The alien flagship and 6 ships around it simply vanished, taking 12,000 enemy soldiers with them. The remaining Zephyrian ships retreated, but the damage was done. Humanity had held Kepler Station against impossible odds. More importantly, the galaxy had watched alien slaves fight alongside humans and win. Dr. Amy Chen worked day and night in her laboratory, making her weapons smaller and more powerful. But her greatest discovery came by accident when she was trying to create a defensive shield. Instead of stopping enemy weapons, her new device made them turn around and go back where they came from. Any missile or energy beam fired at a human ship would bounce off and hit the ship that fired it. "Peter," she called to her assistant, "send this design to every human ship immediately, and send a copy to our alien allies too." Peter looked at the technical drawings and whistled. "Dr. Chen, this means enemy fleets will destroy themselves if they try to attack us." Amy nodded. "Exactly. From now on, anyone who shoots at humans or our friends will only be shooting at themselves." The war's turning point came from an unexpected place. Ambassador Rachel Green had been captured during the first alien attack on Earth. For weeks she had been held prisoner on a Zephyrian command ship. But Rachel was not just sitting in her cell feeling sorry for herself. She was recording everything she saw and heard. The Zephyrians did not think humans were intelligent enough to understand their language. They talked freely about their plans in front of Rachel. They bragged about the billions of people they had killed over the centuries. They laughed about planets they had turned into glass just for fun. Rachel recorded it all. When she finally escaped using a small explosive device hidden in her shoe, she broadcast everything to the entire galaxy. Every species, even ones that had been neutral, heard the Zephyrians talking about genocide like it was a game. The recording that shocked everyone the most was a Zephyrian general talking about their final solution, a plan to kill every member of any species that had ever resisted them. "We should have done this centuries ago," the general said on the recording. "Kill them all and let the universe be peaceful." Within hours of Rachel's broadcast, 43 different alien governments declared war on the Zephyrian Empire. Species that had been afraid to fight now realized they would be killed anyway if they did nothing. President Lisa Hamilton called an emergency meeting of all the galaxy's leaders. The meeting was held on a space station that humans had built from the wreckage of destroyed Zephyrian ships. "Fellow leaders," Hamilton said to the crowd of aliens from dozens of worlds, "we did not start this war. We did not want to become the galaxy's military leaders. But circumstances have forced us into this position." She gestured to a star map showing Zephyrian territory. Most of it was now colored red, meaning it was in rebellion. The Zephyrian government has refused all attempts at peace talks. They have stated clearly that they plan to kill every member of every species that has opposed them. There is only one response to genocide. Hamilton's next words were broadcast to every world in the galaxy. "The Zephyrian Empire ends today, not through conquest but through justice. Any Zephyrian military personnel who surrender will be treated fairly. Any Zephyrian civilians who renounce their government's crimes will be protected. But the leadership that ordered the murder of billions of innocent people will face trial for their crimes." The alien diplomats in the room stood and applauded. For the first time in centuries, someone was strong enough to stop the Zephyrian Empire's reign of terror. Admiral Jake Morrison received the final orders from President Hamilton that evening. They were simple and direct. End it. The next morning, human fleets began the final attack on Zephyrian military bases across the galaxy. But they were not alone. Ships from 50 different species fought alongside them, all united by one simple goal. Never again would any species be allowed to commit genocide and call it empire. 6 months after the aliens bombed Australia, Admiral Jake Morrison stood at the same window where his story began. But everything had changed. Outside, instead of refugee ships fleeing from war, he watched construction vessels building something new. The first galactic defense platform was taking shape, crewed by volunteers from 60 different species. The Zephyrian Empire was gone. Not destroyed like they had destroyed so many others, but ended properly. Their military was disbanded. Their leaders were on trial for crimes against all sentient life. Their home planet was not turned to glass like they had done to so many worlds. Instead, it was under protection while its people learned to live without an empire built on murder. Captain Ryan Blake, now promoted to admiral, walked up to Jake with a data pad in his hand. "The final numbers are in," Ryan said. "The war lasted 6 months and 4 days. We destroyed over 2,000 Zephyrian military vessels. They managed to destroy 43 of our ships." Jake shook his head in amazement. 43 ships lost against their entire empire. How is that possible? Ryan smiled. Dr. Chen's reflection shields worked better than we hoped. Most of the time enemy ships destroyed themselves trying to shoot at us. And our quantum weapons, well, it is hard to fight an enemy that can erase you from existence. On Earth, President Lisa Hamilton walked through the memorial built where Australia used to be. The glass crater had been turned into a beautiful garden with 40 million flowers, one for each person who died in the first attack. But the memorial was not about sadness. It was about remembering why the war had to be fought. Hamilton stopped at the center of the memorial, where a simple stone carried words that had become famous across the galaxy. They thought we would surrender. They were wrong. They thought we would forget. They were wrong about that too. Dr. Amy Chen had become the most famous scientist in galactic history. Her quantum weapons were locked away in the deepest vaults humanity could build. Only 12 people in the entire galaxy knew how to make them. But everyone knew they existed. That knowledge kept the peace better than any army could. Amy spent her days now working on peaceful projects. Medical devices that could heal injuries at the quantum level. Engines that could move ships faster than ever before. Computers that could think at the speed of light. But she still kept one quantum torpedo on her desk as a paperweight. Just to remind visitors that humanity could weaponize the universe itself if anyone was foolish enough to threaten innocent people again. The new Galactic Assembly met for the first time on a space station built from melted-down Zephyrian warships. Representatives from 134 different worlds came together to write laws that would prevent another empire like the Zephyrians from ever rising again. The most important law was simple. No species shall attack the civilians of another species for any reason. Any government that orders such attacks will be considered an enemy of all civilized worlds. President Hamilton addressed the assembly as its first speaker. "We gather here not as conquerors but as protectors. Humanity did not ask to become the galaxy's guardians. We were forced into this role when someone decided to murder our families." She looked around the room at aliens from dozens of worlds. Many of them had been slaves under Zephyrian rule just months before. Now they were free citizens of their own governments. "The age of galactic empires is over," Hamilton continued. "No more will one species rule over others through fear and violence. No more will entire planets be destroyed because their people wanted to be free. The galaxy belongs to all of us and we will protect it together." The assembly voted unanimously to create the Galactic Defense Force. Admiral Ryan Blake was chosen as its first commander. His job was simple. Make sure no species ever again tried to build an empire through genocide. Ryan's first mission brief was telling, "Remember, we are not here to rule. We are here to make sure no one else tries to rule either." The Defense Force was unique in galactic history. Instead of one species controlling others, it was made up of volunteers from every member world. Humans served alongside the slug-like Meridians who had been Zephyrian slaves for 300 years. Former Zephyrian soldiers worked next to species their empire had tried to destroy. Commander Steve Parker, now in charge of training new pilots, often told his students, "We do not fight to conquer, we fight to protect. And if anyone threatens innocent people anywhere in the galaxy, we will show them what happens when you make peaceful species angry." The most important change was not military but diplomatic. The old way of doing things, where strong species bullied weak ones, was replaced by something new. Every species, no matter how small or technologically simple, had an equal vote in the assembly. Captain Sarah Martinez commanded the first joint patrol mission. Her crew included humans, former Zephyrian slaves, and even some young Zephyrians, who had rejected their parents' empire of cruelty. Working together, they stopped a group of pirates who were trying to restart the slave trade. The pirates' ship was not destroyed. Instead, it was captured and the pirates were put on trial. Justice, not revenge, had become the galaxy's new way. 10 years later, children played in the rebuilt cities of Earth, while overhead, human and alien ships patrolled together through the darkness of space. The Memorial Garden in Australia had grown into a beautiful forest where people from many worlds came to remember the price of hatred and the value of standing together. Dr. Amy Chen, now an old woman, still kept her quantum torpedo paperweight on her desk, but dust had gathered on it. No one had threatened galactic peace in over 5 years. The weapon that could tear holes in reality itself had become just a reminder of what could happen to anyone foolish enough to try. Ambassador Rachel Green opened the newest embassy on a former Zephyrian world. The people there had chosen democracy over empire. They elected their own leaders and wrote their own laws. Their children learned about the time before the war only in history classes, as a warning about what happens when good people do nothing while evil people gain power. The galaxy was not perfect. There were still disputes between worlds, still criminals who broke the law, still politicians who made bad decisions. But there were no more empires built on genocide, no more planets turned to glass for the crime of wanting freedom, and everyone knew why. Humanity had proven that no empire, no matter how powerful, could survive making 40 million people angry at the same time. The lesson was simple and clear. Leave innocent people alone or face the consequences. The age of galactic tyrants was over. The age of galactic cooperation had begun, and if anyone had a problem with that, well, humanity still remembered how to weaponize physics itself.